Good afternoon. What an interesting week we're in. Um, our speaker today, Dale Fickett, is one of those really interesting individuals who moves in many different worlds. One world is his daytime job at the University of Richmond, serving as a visiting professor of entrepreneurship, where he works with mostly privileged students and faculty. I think we could say that. Another world is that of the disadvantaged men and women in this area who have hopes of becoming successful in business, but who face many obstacles. His other orbits have included rural Haiti as part of his missionary development work, and Ireland, where he travels frequently to keep his family ties strong. Following an impressive corporate career, Dale turned his talents to giving back to the underserved community in meaningful and important ways. He is president and investment advisor of RVA Works, CEO and co-founder of Open Trellises, and a member and author of the Forbes Business Council. Very impressive. Dale founded RVA Works as a nonprofit to help people overcome barriers and become business owners. Open Trellises is an initiative of RVA Works Enterprise Support. Now, this is a public charity that provides community content and capital to support social impact startups and entrepreneurs in Virginia to change the economy through inclusion and innovation. And in addition, Dale facilitates a wonderful networking group called 1 Million Cups, and everybody's invited to attend if you would like to. It's in the morning, 8:30. At the University of different settings at U of R?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Dale brought this program to Richmond in 2014. And since then, entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs and angel investors have gathered over morning coffee in more than 380 productive meetups here in Richmond. And Jim goes, he loves it. Although we're night owls, so the early morning is, he has to kind of get his act together for that. So these morning gatherings of bright minds are invaluable in supporting connections, partnerships, and peer learning across our startup community. And these are just some of Dale's very impactful endeavors in our community. He's a man on a mission. And he is here to fill in the important details, so please welcome our speaker, Dale Fickett.
All right, thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Jim, for the invitation. It's really an honor to be here today, and I'm so glad that we have this time to share to talk about a topic. Is that better? Yeah, can we turn that microphone up at all, or I don't know. I think it's because I'm so tall. Okay. Okay. So it really is an honor to be here today with everyone. I wanted to say hello to Councilwoman Kathy Graziano, former councilwoman, is here with us, which is so great to see Kathy. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's been a while. All right. Many of you know me, but it's really unlikely that I would be here standing in front of you today. I was raised by a single mother, and she was a school teacher. We lived with my brother in a small town, and I went to a small public school, and she was the daughter of a school teacher and a shopkeeper. I didn't meet my father until I was 32 years old. He grew up at a small town in Utah. He was the son of a Korean veteran and a homemaker. When my father was 18, he enlisted to serve and defend the spread of communism and did so honorably in Vietnam. He would later become a service-disabled veteran. Although I went to that small public school, I was blessed with values, the importance of telling the truth, the importance of being forthright and fair with people, and the value of keeping one's promises. I learned the importance of work ethic, fortitude in the face of adversity, perseverance over time, and value of teamwork, and a deep conviction to my faith in God, to my country, and to serving people in need. Back then, I didn't realize how valuable those lessons really are. As an Eagle Scout, we made a pledge that still resonates today. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty. At my high school, only 10% of students went on to a full four-year university. And I was blessed to be one of them. And because of the sacrifices of my family, I had opportunities to live and work overseas, to complete a graduate degree, to have a career in a prestigious consulting firm, to teach at the Wharton School, and to lead business and people from all over the world. I've worked with people from 6 continents, and I can assure you that we're so blessed in this land, a country that I love because I love the people. I love the fact that we enjoy liberty. We have the freedom to speak out when we disagree with the government. We have the freedom to worship as we wish. And we have the freedom to own a business and to own a home. We can easily take these freedoms for granted, and unfortunately, we often do. We can find ourselves in a toxic cycle of complaining about the state of the world, and we can end up in a series of old threadbare conversations where we recapitulate and regurgitate the old ideas of division. Before we know it, we end up in a spirit of hatred for those with whom we disagree. Before we join in throwing stones, we have to remember we live in proverbial glass houses. We bathe in the media, the 140-character tweets, 30-second sound bites, and we see the voices with whom we already know, we already agree with them, and we want to keep hearing the voices with whom we agree. And we're often convinced to be outraged at the people with whom we disagree. We rest on our pre-existing conclusions, and it becomes harder to extend grace and mercy to other people. And then we can easily fall prey to despair. The despair is understandable. A pandemic, a Russian invasion in the Donbass, Hamas and Hezbollah and their attacks of the Jewish state, Israeli retaliation in Gaza, lawlessness in Haiti and Kenyan peacekeepers, a coup d'etat in Gabon, and the perennial risks of conflict with China and the threat of nuclear proliferation in Iran. So the despair is understandable. Here domestically, we live in the middle of a great divisiveness in the culture. The divide permeates our institutions, corporations, communities, families, churches. We often see this conflict play out just around dinner tables. We bear the weight, and we bear the weight of the witness. We bear the weight of bearing witness. Low income, under-resourced schools, poverty traps, violence in the street and in the home, cycles of addiction, mental health, and homelessness, challenges of maintaining law and order, and then cycles of policing and recidivism. Then the real tragedy of broken homes, the pain of the children, violence, and sometimes suicide. So the despair is understandable, and we have issues in the culture that are rooted in hopelessness, sometimes a glorified self-centeredness, a wave of confusion that I would describe as endemic division. This division, discord, and disharmony can be seen across the airwaves, across our screens, in our pockets, and across the dinner table. And we must ask, how can I improve it? How can it be improved? What can be done to make it better? One crucial part of the discussion is our perspective on progress. That is a great point for discussion. It's so vital a point, I'll repeat it again. We are so divided as a people because of our perspective on progress. On one side of the divide, we have those who would impress on us the truth, a truth that we live in a country unlike any other, that we live in a land with freedoms that most people don't enjoy. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is true. We do enjoy these freedoms and the freedoms of representative democracy, of rule of law, the inherent value and dignity of each life, peace through strength, and the freedom to participate in the economy. We live in a land of immense economic and political power, and people come from all over the world to be in the United States, to become an American. From 1783 to 2019, over 86 million people came here to enjoy these freedoms, to build businesses and inventions, to create homes and strengthen families, and to live the American dream. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That's who we are. That's where we are. But we also know there's another side to this story, the injustice that is a part of the many nations of our history. The injustices of slavery, the injustices of domination and dehumanization. Yes, the other side of this divide would have us focus on this truth, an uncomfortable truth that we must work to correct. This is also true that not everyone lives the American dream. The other side of the story is that these challenges are still quite personal. We can see these many challenges right here in Richmond. We see the blight, we see the effects of disinvestment, a culture of division, and the results that permeate communities of need. We must ask ourselves, is this just? Is this justice? Is this the American dream for which we stand? Is this justice for all? I'm here today to provide a counterpoint to the division and to talk about hope that comes through process and the challenge of cultivating unity. Not so much to talk about what we oppose, but what we wish to stand for. To talk about the things that we're in favor of. Things like integrity and unity, responsibility, and giving oneself in service. You know, when I think back to that small school, I think to the pledge that we took each morning. And I ask you to reflect on that critical point and justice for all. This is more than a bumper sticker or a cheap slogan. It's not a soundbite or a tweet. It defines us as a people. And it means right here that we're in the business of cultivating more justice. It means right here in Richmond, we are cultivators of a new justice, justice for all. With all of our progress and all the liberty, how far will we go to help our sisters and brothers? You see, livelihoods are about justice. Economic participation, good jobs, income mobility, creating more wealth at household level. It's an issue of justice. It's about providing pathways of hope and of being in service to those in need. It's about authenticity and pragmatism. It's about the practical ways by which people can become business owners, that more people can own a business and they can own a home. Our work is all about this justice and justice for all. There was a time when education was not public. There was a time when there was no Medicaid and people who did not have money did not get care. There was a time, and not that long ago, that there were people who had no vote in our system. Yes, livelihoods are about justice. You know, we teach our children about sharing. We see a whole new me generation coming of age. Selfies are more important than self-sacrifice. That social media has become more important than social graces. We teach children about right and wrong, yet people believe a lie. They believe the insidious lie that you can do whatever you want and that there's no consequences. We teach children responsibility, Yet the airwaves are about entitlements, rights, and how easily we can get offended. The idea of justice is about coming together, a bridge building, a healing, and a new unity that is rooted in wisdom. We have to ask, where are the village elders? Not every old person is an elder. Where are the wise people and the leaders who are a voice of wisdom? We need the voice of wisdom. It's right here that hope resides. It's right here that freedom rings. It's right here that we find the courage to give ourselves in service, and it's here that we have the wisdom to hold these opposites. The power is in the and. And we have made progress, and there is work to do. That we are free, and we can use this freedom to help our sisters and brothers. Justice for all. John Rawls and Amartya Sen have done remarkable work in the philosophy of justice, cultivating justice, and it comes down to this. What will I do with my freedom? How will I exemplify service for people in need? Back in 2006, I was on the back of a bus in Dublin, Ireland. I was on my way to a consulting project site, and I was actually studying the Word, and I was reflecting on the gifts that I have received that have been bestowed upon me. To those who much is given, much is expected. I had a powerful realization, and some might even call it an awakening, that my life would be dedicated to assisting those most in need. I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to become an attorney. I don't argue in the legislature. But I knew that I had this background in business and economics and finance, that I had had experiences that many people had never had access to. And I had to ask myself, how can I use those blessings in a unique way? Later in 2013, I was hired by the city's Economic Development Authority to help advance entrepreneurship. And we ended up creating RVA Works, a nonprofit which now has helped over 500 business owners through an array of programs. We have an accelerator training program, a program to improve people's credit scores, an event series called 1 Million Cups that we spoke about earlier, and we bring together entrepreneurs, students of the university, faculty, and angel investors from around the region. There are a lot of statistics about this work that I could share, but at the risk of boring you with numbers, I'll just point out one. When we look at the people who have come through RVA Works, who suit up and show up to build a business, and we look at the average annual household income before to after, alumni report an average annual increase of 38%. So 38% makes a big deal. It's a huge difference when we're trying to figure out which bill to pay, what food we can afford, or counting the days until the next paycheck. This is an example of service and to advance justice, justice for all. We have to look closely at the motivations behind initiatives. And I recall once a conversation I had with a mentor as I expressed my admiration for a humanitarian relief effort. And he stopped me in my tracks and he said, "Are you sure that it's that good?" I was quickly confused by his comment. And then he explained that motivation is everything, that the energy in which we start something is the energy with which it will end, and that loving the poor is not the same thing as hating the rich. So if we want division and discord, we need look no further than who have already been sowing seeds of discord. The promulgators of discord, disunity, hatred, and division have already shown themselves. If we want integrity, unity, responsibility, and self-giving, then we can easily look to those who have made it their business. They are not about climbing a ladder of ambition or power or prestige or money. Now, there are leaders around our patch who have made it their business to be in the service of other people, to do it with remarkable humility, There are nonprofit leaders and public servants around our region who are already building hope and unity and cultivating justice. Yes, justice for all. It's not a new idea. No, it's a methodical action. It's pragmatic and effective. It bridges the urban and rural divide. It's nonpartisan. It's bipartisan. It's a simple idea, but a powerful one. Authentic examples of justice for all and justice through economic participation are a key component. I was asked to submit an article to Forbes, and the first one I chose was to submit an article about enterprise development to help heal America's divisions. And in this, I spoke about healing divisions and building unity and having conversations and walking in service. And I'm truly humbled by the outpouring of people who respond to that message. People all around RVA Works who serve as volunteers. We now have over 40 of them who give of their time to help people get ahead by building their own business. You know, as a region and as a city, we should be incredibly proud of that story because it's really not about me. It's about you and it's about them. You know, recently we had a team come here from Selma, Alabama, to learn about our work and to see what they could do to replicate this in their community. We spent some time with them so that they could meet some of our entrepreneurs, some of our volunteers, and to experience our culture of empowerment. And the thing that they kept asking is, how did you do it? How did you do it? I had to tell the truth that it was a huge blessing. It has been a systematic and methodical suiting up and showing up. It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of people and a lot of sacrifice, but overall, it's been a huge blessing. RVA Works is about justice through participation, and it's about restoration. It's about service, and it's about agape. For those who have been following along, they've seen successes unfold, and they've seen the stories of our alumni and the stories of the national partnerships that we've helped to build. They've seen the blessings bestowed upon us. This business is about justice, justice for all. You know, it did not go unnoticed that Richmond and Selma are two of the historic roots of injustice. The healing must take place at the root. It is here that we take a unified stand for justice. It's here that we speak out and move beyond the platitudes and the talking points. It's here that we show results. It's here that we work together, building bridges, rejecting divisions, and building unity. Richmond is a microcosm of a much bigger challenge, a challenge of healing division and of building more responsibility. If we want a strong city and a strong region, then we must have a strong people. And if we want a strong people, we need to have strong families, and we must support the pathways that help families support themselves. We are about justice. Let me be clear that justice is a high ideal, and it requires specific recommendations. It requires our ongoing programming like RVA Works to help more people. It requires that they are in a position to help one another. And just recently, I had a conversation with the National Science Foundation. A colleague asked me to submit a few recommendations about economic participation. And I was happy to do so, and I provided him a short list. Cooperative and ESOP ownership, so more people own the businesses in which they work. Microloan securitization, monetary policy for related asset purchases, a federal loan company for small enterprise with regional applications in enterprise zones, an acceleration of community development finance so that they can better assist commercial banks, broader government matching and loan guarantees to incentivize impact investments, expansion of finance and credit education that nonprofits like RVA Works provide, and funding tax incentives for first-time business borrowers. We are about justice. Let me tell one other story. I was invited to Kansas City to work with the Kauffman Foundation. And I looked around and I saw these beautiful tree-lined streets, fountains, parks, and I would have asked a bunch of executives their thought on this, but I decided to ask the bus driver so I could get the real story. And I asked, what happened? Was it always like this? And he said, no, we got a new mayor. And I asked, well, what did they do? And he said that they went around to all the big companies and got them in a room, and they started by saying, we need to work together. And then they got started. That's what we need, is that type of leadership and collaboration. And you here in this room will help us get there. You're in the business of setting the stage for new leadership. And hopefully to usher in new investment, new collaboration, new economic empowerment, new regionalism, and new pathways to include more people. Yes, you can help create more justice for all. If we want more peace, more healing, and more advancement, then we need to show results. And we need to show that we're including more people in those results. We know a spirit of ingenuity and personal responsibility are paramount. We know that government is not going to come along and do it for us. We know the responsibility to educate children, to exemplify good values, and we know that it's up to us to get engaged. It's up to us as individuals to make the most of the blessings we've received, to help our sisters and brothers. And it's important that we continue to value education and to embody work ethic. It's up to all of us to exemplify integrity, unity, responsibility, and a willingness to serve. And this is not naive. It's not a simple moralizing. The implications are hard, but it is possible. It's possible that a whole new generation are invested in the future, that we know business can be a force for good, that we're working towards justice, that we need this work to heal the people that are hurting, that we're all about justice for all. This goes well beyond political party or skin color, creed, or the country from which one's family came. It strikes at the heart of what it means to live the American dream and to be free, to use that freedom in the service of others, and to exemplify justice for all. If we don't get this right, we risk victimizing a whole new generation. We risk continuing and convincing people that the deck is stacked against them, that they have no hope. We risk sticking to the old narrative that the other side is wrong. We're back into throwing stones. We risk more extremism, and we risk relegation, a continued degradation, and into despair. We risk young people believing that their life doesn't matter, that they came from nowhere and that they're headed nowhere, that none of this matters. We risk people believing that there are no consequences to their actions and decisions, and we can end up with a generation of people confused, outraged, and apathetic. But the truth is, every life has inherent dignity, that our actions and our words do matter, that there are consequences, that living authentically with integrity and responsibility are incredibly important, that we must strive to love our neighbors as ourselves. Did you not know that we were already about justice for all? As I bring these comments to a close, let me lay out 3 pillars that are very important. And I submit that they're important for the future of our region, because Richmond is a microcosm of the rural-urban divide in America. 1, put the politics aside. Focus on pragmatic results for good jobs, more businesses, home ownership, less crime, and even more improvements in the schools. 2, strategic public investments. Work with the firms that understand our structural advantages, our arts and culture, the technology and innovation capacity that we have, our low cost of living, the benefits that we have by virtue of our geography, and that really understand that we need to focus on cooperation with the counties. The companies that build win-win partnerships that advance both the common good for the region and provide return on invested capital. And number 3, treasure the people. We need a renaissance of listening and holding the tough conversations. The people can see that historic injustices have been called out, that plans are in place to heal divisions, and the results are real. Yes, justice for all. So the hard work will begin, and we've all heard that a house divided cannot stand, that we need the strength to hold the opposites, that we need the courage to build unity, that we need to walk in love and service, even when we disagree with our neighbor, especially when we disagree. The truth is that it is up to us. It is up to us to make progress, to create more economic empowerment, more launch pads for new technology, to celebrate people's ingenuity, to build new ventures, to create new jobs, to advance children's learning, to have safer streets, and to build more unity. Yes, it's up to us to use our abilities to help others. And it's up to us to recognize that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. It's up to us to chart this path and to follow through. It's up to us to hunger for justice. At this time, with so much violence and injustice in the world, people so desperately need hope. They need a strong America to take our rightful place as a beacon of justice, a shining example of what it means to reconcile the past and to work together. Right here in Richmond, we have an opportunity because people so desperately need those reasons for hope. Our nation needs these examples of peace and justice. People need to see that it's possible, that it is both noble and effective, that it can work, and that it is working, and that RVA works. Thank you. All right, so I think we have time for questions. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes,
What
sir.
do you think of Shark
The television show.
Tank?
So, Shark Tank has been interesting. There's a pro and a con. So there's probably a few, but the pro is that there's examples and highlighting innovation, entrepreneurs. So it's great, sort of elevating these inventors and innovators, and to give them a platform. I say that it's a little bit misleading because very few businesses will attract outside angel capital. And so it's something like 97% are self-funded and relying mainly on debt-based financing. So it's a little bit misleading for people who see themselves there when they may not be addressing the right opportunity. Yes, sir.
Who funds RVA Works?
Yeah, so it's a combination of individual donors, and we've historically gotten some public sector grants, and then we also have corporate sponsors that provide different in-kind services. But it's mainly a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from volunteers.
Can you tell us some of the local businesses that may have started out there that we can all make sure we support?
Yeah, sure. So one of those businesses is here in the room, Provision Media. They're currently going through our program. I call that strategic procurement. And so that's one. Bernie's Baked Goods is another. River City Upholstery. There's dozens. We'd have to get you a directory.
And I think a campaign support our businesses and a directory would be a pile in here for us to take back and get to our
Yeah,
connections would be very helpful.
Sure.
Really amplify, it's free advertisement.
yes, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
In the Richmond area, what are the biggest challenges or obstacles to the justice that you speak of?
So one of the biggest challenges has been about building public-private partnerships. I mean, we look no further than a casino deal, right? I mean, Kathy could educate us about the difficulties of working across the public sector and the private sector. And I think that there has to be a willingness to understand the perspective of the person on the other side of the table. Because if we're going to business and saying, hey, can you do this? And it's just, and there's no return on invested capital for them, it's going to be irrelevant in some sense. I mean, there may be few areas, but real economic development starts there. And then on the flip side, it's up to business owners to really understand the needs and demands of constituents so that elected officials can explain and communicate effectively about the community level benefits that will be seen across the region because of a particular deal. And I can totally relate to the distrust and the sort of skepticism about particular companies doing particular things, but it needs to be effectively communicated. And I think that starts with people getting around the table and being honest about the fact, look, this is what we need to report to our shareholders. Look, this is what we need to report to our constituents, and kind of meeting in a way that creates a win-win. And it's not going to be helpful to denigrate private markets or private businesses because we need all of that activity to strengthen the region.
So related to that, when you started RVA Works, what was the biggest barrier to starting businesses of the people that you were serving?
Yeah, so the first thing that we wanted to tackle when we first got started the strategic planning was we had this landscape. We had a pretty broad map of all the different pieces and stakeholders around the region who were assisting in different ways. And we said, well, you know, we have this incubator building that's sort of old and dated, and we're not exactly sure how we're going to best utilize it. But we know that this is a regional discussion about entrepreneurship. It's not about one building, it's a bigger conversation. And so we said in that there were three things we wanted to do. First, we wanted to provide pathways so that we reduced barriers. We said we need to create ways that any entrepreneur can navigate through all these different support services. And the third was we said we needed a destination center so that innovators and entrepreneurs from other regions were attracted to come as a magnet to the region. And so the most important barrier that we came across was just the basic skills development and the kind of blocking and tackling to show, okay, these are the skills that we need to cultivate because an idea is wonderful. It's great to have the seed of an idea and it needs to be practical. But then we have to go through the process of the learning and the connecting with other people so that people are in a position to have sales and to have customers and then to go on to create jobs. Yes, sir.
Thinking internationally, we seek cheaper labor in Asia to stock out Walmarts and so forth. But we have a tremendous population who would work for the same rate that, let's say, the Asians would work. In Central America and Caribbean, in, I'll say, Haiti. In Haiti and Dominion Republic occupied the same island. But what is the obstacle for the corporations who can't go to these Central American countries that are just not that many miles from that border and establish a dependable workforce? I would say what's happening in Israel, Palestine right now is a frustration of lack of opportunity in Palestine that is, I say, the root of what's happened in this last month now. But any guidance on that is to have cultivate business to go in that, and I know they have to have a dependable workforce.
Yeah.
But
So
any insights?
thank you, Joe, for the question. So a couple of things. Years ago I did some research with a colleague of mine at Trinity in Dublin, Ireland, and we were looking at the economic context within which companies could build and grow. And there's many different facets to that. Some of it is about trade, some of it is about aid, some of it is about governance and security in a particular region as a precursor to kind of organic business growth. So I think that's sort of one conversation, if you like. And that's international, but we can talk about that here domestically too. But then there's another side which has to do with labor and jobs right here in the region. And so when we think about what is it that we want to have as pathways of participation, I think it's great when we're moving towards higher hourly rate employees, but we have to get structural about ownership. And I think that's where when we look at these different initiatives, and I'm in the middle of a project right now about an employee share owned company, which would be involved in federal procurement. But why that's important is because the workers own the company. We can look at examples like Mondragon in Spain. It's a great example. Father Jose created that with a group of students, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So there are examples where this sort of ownership works. But also the issue of labor cost differentials, I think the calculus on that is changing to an extent too, because transportation costs are up, and because when we look at labor rates, because the demographic trends, particularly in East Asia, have changed markedly. So we're seeing a lot of reshoring of capacity. The pandemic, I would say, exacerbated or highlighted the issues around supply chain resiliency. And so to that extent, I think if we're to look at our economy overall, there's some issues of supply chain where we can say, you know what, those are target industries where we really need to make sure that the companies and the production and manufacturing is happening onshore. And we're seeing that, we're seeing that happen in different industries in different ways. And locally here, I think we have an excellent story to tell about workforce, about the education level of the people around the region. I think there's actually a lot of benefits to talk about. I mean, look at, the story of Cristo Rey, right? I mean, wonderful program, wonderful way to get people, young people engaged in companies. So I think that there's a lot of things moving in our favor, a lot of factors in our favor.
Do you, I guess I understand there's been a shift in business philosophy from, I believe the Wharton School was founded on the philosophy that a business should help take care of the community around them, that was one of the premises of founding a business. More recently, and I think this has come out of Harvard, that businesses are only beholden to their shareholders. And wondering how that philosophy shift or the popularity of those philosophies may have affected our current situation in regards to justice.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the first thing is that I was educated and brought up with, the Keynesian economics and Milton Friedman and maximizing shareholder value, which I think is a really important principle, but that's not where it ends. And as a matter of fact, Jeff Harrison and Doug Bossie, who are on our faculty at the University of Richmond, have done when I say leading, meaning internationally leading work on pioneering stakeholder theory. So the idea that a business has responsibilities beyond their employees and beyond the providers of capital to the business has been around now for a couple of decades. And so I think you see things like ESG movements, social impact investment classes, those sort of asset classes. Other social enterprises are great examples of how there are viable market solutions which address a multitude of challenges, some of which we've been discussing today. There's a question here.
I'm familiar with the Metropolitan Business League.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all partner with them?
Yeah, so I know Floyd well and have for a long time. So one of Floyd's staff members came through RVA Work. She's a graduate of ours and ended up going on to do great things with MBL. And so, I'm a big supporter of MBL. I've gone and spoken for Floyd at different events that he's held. We've kind of talked about different, just different issues with people that are facing, could be different developmental disabilities. It could be, the recidivism issues. And as a matter of fact, I was talking with Tanya about some of the prison ministry work. That's a long story. That's pretty funny, but we don't have enough time to go into it. But to answer your question, I think MBL does some nice work, and and there are different things that kind of bubble up from time to time that we say, oh yeah, and so Floyd and I kind of compare notes. You're welcome. Yes.
You're here today because you reach out to other community groups in the city. Have you done any work with Leadership Metro Richmond, in which I'm involved? Have you ever done a guest lecture there?
So I have not, and just so that thank you.
You should. I was about
Yes,
to raise
exactly, yes.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'd be happy if I were invited, but believe it or not, I'm kind of a shy and reserved guy, and I only came because Jim and Suzanne asked me to, and so.
You gotta get over it because you're being called to do something, and the more people, the more leadership Metro Richmond, its name is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's a great organization, and I've worked with many people who have been involved with LMR. I'm a big fan of LMR. I'd be happy to speak with them.
You don't have to do anything but say what you just said. That's what you should be giving to the Leadership Metro Richmond community.
Thank you. By the way, that line about being shy, that was just a joke.
Okay. You do well for a shy person.
Thank you. Jim.
I know that you're doing a lot of work to analyze and find ways of knitting together what we call the ecosystem for entrepreneurship in the city and the surrounding area, because there's a lot of energy and effort, but it's a lot of it is misused because everyone has their own silo, right?
Yes.
So can you talk about your efforts and that at the University of Richmond?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. So, so I had sort of spent some time today talking about principles and what that means for the region, which is a really important discussion. And then I spent a little bit of time talking about RVA Works as one stakeholder amongst many. But there's a discussion in between those two levels, and that's the sort of regional startup community. Sometimes Jim and I joke that ecosystem is overused, but it's really a support system, right? It's a support structure. And so if we think about an economy, we have a flow of financial capital, that's the banking system. We have a flow of people, that's immigration and migration. We have a flow of physical goods, that's our traded sector's physical goods. And then we have the flow of data, and that data moves around through our system of internet systems and routers and switches and so forth. Now, if we think about that, Richmond as a region is within this, kind of huge international and national systems, and we have to look at what are the sort of assets that we have as a region that we're bringing to the table to compete nationally or internationally for an inward investment for people who want to come and live and work here. And we have to think about the people who are already here. And so the work there is really about understanding, if we think about entrepreneurship and small business, who's out there and what are they doing, right? That asset mapping was a huge initiative in and of itself. And so we came and, I was happy to share a list of 48 different organizations providing some sort of new business support services. And we just mentioned MBL is one of them. They're doing great work. That could be providing workspaces, that could be providing mentorship, could be cohort-based skills. It could be things that have to do with establishing or improving credit scores, intentional small business loan programs or early stage equity investments. So there's a lot of things that are mapped across that. But, once you have that, what do you do with it, right? So okay, you have this list, you have this map, now what? Well, in order for that to really be valuable for all of you and for everyone around town, the answer is obvious: to have it publicly accessible in an intuitive way so that anyone can pick up their device, enter a few parameters, business name, my industry, what I'm looking for, and then I get a short list. So I have 3 instead of 48 to navigate. So we were very fortunate this summer. A team of my MBA students were able to develop that particular tool, which was wonderful. And so that's something that is essentially a value add, a public good, I would argue. All right.
Any other questions?